Well, thank you, Seattle Raging Grannies, for being here. I'm honestly really excited to talk to you all. I've been telling everybody about it. And so this is part of the archive interview series. It's an oral history project where we're trying to capture the voices of artists who have performed at the festival for a long time, and also to get to know the stories behind the Seattle artists who are living here to preserve for future generations. Let's just start by getting some introductions from you all. So feel free to take the mic over there.
Wow. I'm Rosie Betzall, and I've been involved with the Seattle Raging Grannies since they started 30 years ago, 1994 in the fall. And Karen also was with that original group. Yeah. And we were with amazing women who were like in WILPF, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and other oh,
All activists.
women's votes, women votes.
Women Act for Peace.
Women Act for Peace. Yeah. So we learned a lot from our elders because we decided we would join when we were in our 40s. The Vancouver grannies thought we were too young. They said you can't be in it unless you have white hair. So
Well, you got white hair pretty early.
I dyed it.
Okay. Yeah, Rosie, I was 43 when I joined. Okay, so now I'm 73. But I used to see the Raging Granny. Well, the Victoria Raging Grannies used to come to the Folklife Festival. So I was in my 30s at that time, and so we would see them, right? And I would look at them and go, "Oh, I wish I could be in a group like that." But I'm a long ways from ever being a granny. Seriously. But in fact, I still remember one of the performances of the Victoria Grannies here at Folklife. They did a song. They did the condom song, and they had a big stage. I don't know which one it was. Were you there for that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so they had a trunk full of nightgowns and curlers and all kind of things. So they just all kind of maybe 8 of them. They're all nonchalantly dressing up in night stuff. We're all watching like, wow, what's going to happen? And then as it turns out, they sing this condom song, and then they threw condoms out in the audience. Yes, that was here at Folklife. I don't know if it's happened since. In any case, that really got me excited about the Raging Grannies. And I also had another opportunity. We used to go to there's a group called the Fellowship of Reconciliation. It's really more like a international organization. But anyway, they have a retreat every year at a place called Seabeck, which is, I don't know, Hood Canal. And so one of the Raging Grannies from Vancouver would come to this FOR, was a Vancouver, BC retreat, and they would always have a talent show. And I have a picture of myself singing, and I think you too, a couple of us singing with that Raging Granny from Vancouver. And anyway, that was like our first opportunity, right, to sing with the Raging Granny. And then a number of years later, Rosie Betzall called me up. She said, "Karen, they're starting a Raging Granny group here." And I said, "Wow, can we go?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I have to call the leader." The leader at that time, the woman organizing it was Kathleen Kelly. I called her up. I said, "Kathleen, my name's Karen Schneider, and actually I'm only 43. Do you think I could come?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, as long as you have the granny attitude." And I said, "Oh, I'm sure I have that." So I've been with them ever since.
I'm Johanna Reed. I've been in the Grannies for about 20 years. Somewhere between 15 and 20. Who keeps track? The Grannies actually started in Victoria, British Columbia. And that group is continuous. It's had the same members since they started. And they are a raucous bunch. They're great. There's grannies all over the U.S. and Canada, and a few in some other countries. So it's a fairly sizable group at this point, and it's just been great. It's something I could get behind that allows me to sing and be silly, but also be serious. So I write I've written a fair number of songs, a couple that we performed today, and that's really fun too. So I'm retired at this point, um, but I'll never retire from the Grannies.
Hello, I'm Sue Kay. I have also been with the Raging Grannies. I can't believe it's been 20 years. And I never had any music, so I thought, well, I can't sing. And they said, well, you don't have to sing and you don't have to be a granny. You just, like Karen said, you just have to have that attitude. So I was drawn in and I haven't turned around. It's been quite an experience. And so, yeah, we just, let's see, I think I first saw them at Folklife wearing all these outrageous outfits. And I'm not one to really step up and perform and dress up, but here I am.
Yeah, when I first joined the Grannies, we don't really have that formal structure anymore, but you actually had to be interviewed. And
You had
first
to be
thing that
interviewed
happened,
to get
yes,
into the Seattle Raging Grannies?
you
Wow.
did. First thing that happened was a friend of mine recommended the Grannies to me because he had represented some Grannies who had been arrested for property destruction in Portland for throwing red paint on an Army recruiting office window. And they actually got off on a technicality because it was washable paint. And my friend said, "You got to look at this group. This is right up your alley." So I found their website and I sent in a email saying, I'm interested. And a year later, I heard back from somebody who said, "Well, will you join us for lunch at Costa's in the University District?" So I get there and I'm literally put at the head of this table, and there's like, I don't know, 8 or 10 grannies, and a couple of them are really like serious. What's your political background and da da da, and I'm thinking, boy, really, I can't make the cut to get into the Grannies. So a friend of mine is in the restaurant and walks over. She's subsequently became a judge in King County. And she says, "Johanna, what are you here for?" I said, "Well, I'm being interviewed for the Raging Grannies." And she turns to the table and she says, "You have to let her in. She's perfect." So that's how I got started.
Cool. Well, can we talk a little bit about what Seattle Raging Grannies does? Like, what is your music about? Because I know when I was going through the archives, I heard it and I was like, wow, these women are activists. They have importance. They're doing important work here. So, do you guys want to speak to some of the things that your songs are about and your mission with the group?
I would say the main thing we thought about is that our politics are out front in our songs. There is many beautiful political messages by the other singers here, and of course there are some groups that do that on the surface as well. But ours are right there for you to know what we're thinking and what we would like to change in the world. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to list some that we did today. Frankly, we did one called Incarceration Nation because we were very concerned that over 2 million of our fellow citizens are incarcerated. We did Children of Gaza. Frankly, that some of our songs are actually very serious, and in that song we had some quiet afterwards, right? We didn't just go into our next song because that we do lots of songs about the environment, frankly. We have a song, The Project 2025, right? So we want, like, we see ourselves as educators too, not really just entertainers, but we're here to really impart some information. And that's always been something that has been very important to us. Like, we're not just here to entertain and make people laugh. We want to make people think. And I think more importantly, we want to make people act, frankly. And so one of our songs is We Must Act, right? You want to say something else about our songs?
So,
Well, there's a lot of humor, satire, and parody. And like Karen mentioned, we can also be serious. And what else?
um, I think one of the things I appreciate about the Grannies is that young people come up to us when we're out performing and say things like, I didn't know that somebody my parents' age could have these ideas. I wish my parents did, or just, I'm glad to see you. It's nice to feel that inspiration level, which is there. We're not going to stop just because we're old. So,
I just add a little, and then I'll pass it back to you. So I joined them when I was only 43, but I felt like, wow, these are amazing role models for me. Like it helped me feel like when I age, I'm still going to be doing purposeful work. I'm not going to be invisible. And so I think that's one thing we do for young women is that we are role models and young folks in general, that we are of not just young women, but just non-binary people, anyone that, as you age, it's not something to be afraid of, that you will have a voice. So I just think I appreciate that part about us.
Um, you mentioned role models and mentors and friends. When I retired, it was a whole new education that opened up to me because I met people who had expertise in like nuclear weapons and all the topics. And let's see, we had Rosie working with Banger and
The Trident submarine.
Trident submarine base. I learned about how many missiles were going to wipe out Seattle, and there were women that specialized that were working with organizations with mental health, homelessness, way back, yeah, 20 years back. We've been working with houselessness. So each one of them brings something to the group and we share, which is really beautiful.
yeah, it's true that we definitely share an outlook and a basic sort of political view, but several of us are involved in different organizations that are particularly dear to us, or particular issues that are particularly dear to us. In my case, the whole issue of what's happening to trans people is really close to my heart because I have a close relative who's trans, and so I always want to have that addressed somewhere in our songs. And there are so many other um, organizations that some of us belong to, and certainly causes that we particularly feel strongly about.
Our whole, I mean, well, not, you can't say a whole granny message. We are just wanting everybody in the world to be safe, have food, have housing. Eh, So, like, even the 60-year-old person I might run into, I might feel like I'm their grandmother, and I want them to be living a good life that feels wonderful for them. And over time, I would say over the 30 years, that has always been there, but we focused a lot on feminism and what women need at the very beginning for a long time. And then la, lots of wars, anti-war, um, gay, gay rights, trans rights, all those things uh, that we need to work on as a world so that people will all be safe. Um, could we just sing a teeny bit, like a few lines of We're the Women Who Did the Work? Do you remember that at all?
Very
I don't know whether it's here.
Oh my gosh.
It's not here, I don't
That's
think,
like
but
the second song
okay.
we ever sang.
Yeah.
Should say something about original gigs.
Sure,
first
yeah.
started.
Well, you want to do the song first and then talk
Yes.
about it?
Do you have the words for it?
No, I don't know. Okay. We're the women who did the work so men could get the credit. We said leave it all to us and wished we never said it.
It's our original. I think one of my favorite originals was, it's on here, you guys. Mammogram. Thanks for the mammogram. It wasn't lots of fun. It made my breasts go numb. Squash me any harder and I'd be a hot cross bun. But thank you so much. Thanks for the mammogram. It really helped to see the shady side of me. The X-ray found what I could not, as large as a small pea. So thank you so much. Although I think the next verse is what I really liked. Okay. So many poisons have caught us, but we never knew that it brought us the breast cancer levels we fought off. It isn't fun, the harm's been done, so thanks for the mammogram. I wish I could be sure they're finding out a cure, or better yet, what causes it, so I could save my favorite. So thank you so much. And I sing that when I go get a mammogram. Sometimes they appreciate it, and sometimes they don't.
Can I ask y'all about the songwriting? Like, how does that work? It seems like you, all, like the group itself, is really community oriented, and I can see that you all talk to each other about these issues. So I'm just wondering, how do you all write your songs?
We there tend to be some of us that write more songs than others. Um, but when I write a song, for example, we may identify an issue and say we really need a song on this issue, and some of us will sort of look around, and all of our songs are to other tunes. So one of the things that's happened since I've been in the Grannies is we've tried to move the songs up from bicycle built for two to more modern songs. So I've written songs to Beatles tunes and other tunes. Like one of the ones we did today is a Janis Joplin tune. But then when I write a song, I kind of bring it to the group and we work on it together. And we may refine some of the lyrics. We may have somebody has an idea. Why don't you do this? So it does go through a group process, which is really important.
And there we have an e-vine. There's the national group and the international group. So sometimes we pick up songs from that e-vine. It's just called the e-vine. What is
Email vine.
email? Okay,
E
email. Yeah.
hyphen vine.
Yeah. So if we see a song that we feel we could sing, we'll try it out.
And we may tinker with it.
Yeah.
Once again, we'll change it, and everybody expects that. The other people who write songs expect that.
We get POTUS from.
It was POTUS, which we did today. Let's do that one. Are you ready?
About 4 verses.
It's just one verse.
4 verses to the song I have.
Well,
Here, what we sang today.
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. We believe your fascist reasons something quite atrocious. Will resist the illness, justice. Supercalifragilistic POTUS. That song was spotted on a protest song about a month ago, on a protest placard.
Oh, really?
Somebody saw it and wrote it down, and we made it into a song. I mean, it was obviously meant to be to that tune,
Yeah.
supercalifragilistic, but it was so clever, we didn't change a word. So we get songs from all kinds of directions, I guess.
And there's song websites
Mm.
that all of the grannies, anybody can go to, and you can find them under the listing of what the writer might have considered it was for.
Right, I see. So to be clear, the songs are kind of part of a larger network,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
so there are Raging Grannies across the country. There are Raging Grannies even in Canada, right?
They started it.
They started it.
Yep.
They had 60 at one time.
They had 60 groups, like every little
60
town.
groups in Canada.
Now they have like less than a dozen.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
But when they were starting,
There are, the grannies are all around the world.
Uh-huh.
Actually, we believe there's a Japanese group,
Israel,
maybe Israel as well,
Wow.
and Australia. Until we started, there were no grannies in the U.S. There was only in Canada, and then we started,
Wow.
and then the WTO came along, and the WTO made us famous, and then lots and lots of grannies groups started in the U.S.
West Coast and East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really nice because, like, we have a granny that moved to New York. Now she's joined the New York Raging Grannies, and we can keep in touch.
Yeah. And there's grannies all through the country now, not just the East and West Coast.
there's grannies in Olympia and Tacoma, which we have joined up with when we've done some actions in Olympia. So it's Bellingham, and we haven't had one recently, but they used to have what they call unconventions every 2 years. So I think Canada would host it, right? How'd that work? No, then us. Then I was saying, I think they were going back and forth like that.
Places to do it anyway. Yeah, we had one in Seattle, an unconvention. What year was that?
Hottest day of the year.
Yes, it was the hottest day of the year.
Maybe 2016 or 18.
Yeah. Yeah, and people came from all over.
Wow.
It's a
Um,
really fun. I went to one in Rochester. Um, other places you've been to some, right?
Yeah, Edmonton and Victoria. We took our bikes up.
We several of us rode our bikes to Victoria from here.
And we won the prize for the most environmentally friendly group. And what did we get? We got a water bottle.
One year we hosted an unconvention for the grannies in Washington, and it was up at Fort Casey at Whidbey Island, and so that was particularly fun, right? In the Bellingham, and we at these unconventions I think Saturday night we always share songs, and that is a real highlight of it, right? Real highlight. But I also wanted to say at one of the unconventions I went to, I've been to a couple in Victoria. I learned about they did a sweatshop fashion show. It's just so fun. I mean, they highlight 3 different companies like Disney, Nike, and another one, and grannies dress up in that attire, and then you have an MC talking about, oh, Ruth, look at Ruth, looking so elegant, but then you have the other MC, then talk about the sweatshops. So we did that a number of times. It's really a lot of fun. Lots of great songs with it. We had a lot of sweatshop fashion show type songs.
I wanted to take us back briefly to Folklife for a moment, and so the Victoria Grannies were and maybe with some Vancouver Grannies were coming down here and being on stage at Folklife, and then they were getting tired of coming down here, and so they invited us to sing on stage with them at one point. I don't think we were on stage here before that. And then they handed Folklife over to us. So, in the middle of suddenly, oh, they're not going to come again, and we're going to apply next year. So it was really cool to be able to do that.
That was.
Well, it's before WTO.
Right? For you folks with us too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was only like 4 years in. So,
Okay. So we've been doing this 26 years. You've been coming to Folklife?
I think we've only missed 1 year.
Yeah.
Wow.
One year they did.
They didn't pick us. Yes.
Gosh, folk life messed up that year. I want to ask a question. Have you all ever received any pushback for the work you do? Because it's like it's really powerful. So I'm just curious, if you.
I think people are too intimidated by us.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
That's what I think. I mean, I don't think we've ever gotten any negative.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, there's been like we've been at demonstrations where there are counter demonstrators, but
Yeah.
nobody's focused in on us particularly that I recall.
I remember when we locked down on the street and there was just a driver that was threatening us.
Oh wow.
But
Yeah.
other than that,
I bet you're right. Yeah, like you all are so powerful. Every people are probably too intimidated. But yeah, I think maybe one or two more questions. I was curious if you have any advice for younger folks. Like, I think that community is so important, and I see it especially in your group, Seattle Raging Grannies, and I can see that it's a strong network across the country. So if folks are looking to try and build community and really be in the moment and do some of the activist feminist work that you are doing, what advice would you have for them?
I get a lot of questions from young people, and we, our group has wanted to join up with a lot of young people, so we have been inviting them to our meetings. And like one of the groups right now, I'm wearing their T-shirt, Tango. It means defend migrants, and they're really active in the Filipino community and the Vietnamese community because they're being grabbed by ICE right now. So they've invited us to join them at the Northwest Detention Center. So there are those connections brewing. But, you know, when you ask about us being targeted, I do worry about young people because when police come, they kind of treat us with kid gloves. So I always feel like when there are young people around, I'm watching the police and sort of being the buffer. And I think we can be that.
Yes, yes. And we have made a concerted effort to work with groups that are mainly formed by younger people. Um, my advice would be don't get overwhelmed. Um, stand up for what you think is important. There are groups that are very supportive of themselves, their members, and work on specific things. I mean, one sort of broader group is 350. Um, but there are many others. So, um, I've been in politics since the first political act that I am aware of having done. I was 7, and my mother took me to an Adlai Stevenson rally, and I was on television for 5 seconds. So, um, I grew up partly in Houston, which was segregated when I was growing up. The schools were all segregated, and I was in civil rights demonstrations back then, Vietnam War, those demonstrations. I mean, and so we got a feeling for the positive aspects of doing concerted action and supporting. There's nothing like getting training in my parents' living room with a bunch of other 13-year-olds about what to do when the dogs are coming at you, um, to give you some very solid feelings of solidarity with the people you're with. And that's important. And if we can, in any way, help people understand that that's there for them, I think it's because it's so easy to be isolated, and it's even easier now. People cannot come out of their houses for days at a time.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefit of growing up in a time where there isn't social media, there isn't cell phones, so like you really build community in a a real way, a real world way. Yeah. So anyway, if you want to continue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about building community. And one of the things that is lovely about what the grannies do is the singing. And when people sing together, they like lift their spirits no matter what they're singing, just about. And so that's why parades and marches and people, even at a meeting, could be singing something that gives them joy and hope. And
Well, I'm just going to add because I've also been well, not since I was 7. This you're gonna laugh. My first political campaign was Vote 19. Think about that. Vote 19. Yay, they made it to 21. I'm glad we lost that one. But I mean, I think the idea that so we are, pretty much lifelong activists. And so how do you sustain that, right? Over a lifetime. And for me, part of it is well, the joy, the fun that we share as a community, right? I think we laugh a lot, right? It's not even just singing. We laugh a lot. We don't always take ourselves so seriously. And frankly, I have to take some breaks here and there from what is going on in the world. It's extremely stressful and can take over your mind and your heart like 24/7 if you'd let it, right? So I mean, like being really really intentional about having practices that rest me and that bring me joy. I might go into great detail, but I was trained as a certified laughter leader, so I have a particular interest in bringing that sort of healing laughter for people, because there's so many things that are healing about laughter. But and I'm also in a book group right now about reading a book about mutual aid, and I think the interesting thing about mutual aid, it's you you get together, right, to meet needs of people, but you also at the very time have a shared political analysis about what's going on. So it's not like just helping people, frankly. And I think these mutual aid that get coming together to do mutual aid groups is going to be a way to break down the isolation too, right? Feel like you're doing something purposeful, and being with people is really important.
Well, just back to Rosie's singing, I remember when we were in jail and we were worried about what was going on, and we started singing, and
Mm.
that really raises the spirits.
Yeah, there's so much to go off of there. I think we need another hour. One thing I want to say before final question is that like I really appreciated what you said about how it's a lifelong, like you're a lifelong activist, and how do you sustain that? And part of it is resting and taking space. Yeah, and part of there's a book called Rest is Resistance. Yeah, which is really powerful. So I think as I grow older, like I need to remember that as well. So thank you for that. So I have a sign off question that I always like to do for these interviews. And it's if you have a person, a song, or a phrase that has changed the way that you view the world, like what is that person or song or phrase? And it could be something that perhaps has stayed with you for years and years, or maybe just a saying or a song that's been in your life recently. And of course, as a Seattle Raging Grannies, I feel like all your songs are really impactful and well can change how I see the world. But I'm curious from your perspective. You all have so much experience, so.
Well, it came to me. We have a song about it. I was very involved with the Poor People's Campaign and National Call for More Revival, and one of our like chants is forward together, not one step back. So I sign when I do emails or whatever, I always put forward together because I think that's what we have to do. We have to go forward together to realize the dreams for our world. So forward together would be my phrase that I love.
um, I guess that the song that means so much to me anytime I do it, no matter what the circumstance, we shall overcome. Um, and I have sung it in many different places at many different times in my life.
stole my song. That's my song, and it comes back. I just got to lead. I'm in another chorus, the Seattle Labor Chorus,
Yeah.
and I got to lead that song, and I almost started crying because it's so important to me and goes so far back. So I'll join you in that song.
Well, when you were asking the question, I was thinking of one of our early grannies, Shirley Morrison, who inspired a lot of us. But it brought to mind a feeling when we were locked down at Chalno and the police were converging on us. There were 24 police cars that came to arrest us. Yes.
Was this during a protest or?
Yes, it was at a protest. And of course, my reaction right away when the police said, okay, we're giving you so many minutes and we're going to arrest you. And so I started gathering my stuff. And Shirley Morrison, who sat next to me, said, well, you'll just have to arrest us. And I remember that moment when it was a feeling that gave me a lot of strength that I hearkened back to it.
Cool.
Can we say something about Shirley?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. I can start. Oh.
She was a granny from the very beginning, and she passed away like 2 years ago at 99 and three
Wow.
quarters.
Wow.
Was continuing through that time with us, and just had the best attitude toward every person she met. And I'd say thousands of people would come up to her and say hello when we were walking around because she knew everybody, because she always said hello. And she had the most, she had a hard life in her family, and she overcame everything with an attitude of such love and joy.
Mm.
It was absolutely brilliant.
I was even in a book group. We were reading books around racism about a day day before she died. She was still in this book group. She was always learning, wanting to know things, curiosity. Really an incredible human being that we were all so privileged to know and love.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. She seemed like a wonderful person. Is there? Okay, well, Seattle Raging Grannies, thank you so much for this interview. It's been great.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah?
Full life. I was just,
Yeah.